The universe is a self-sustaining unity. At every point in time and space, everything that is needed for the proper expression of the activity that is unfolding there, everything that's needed is supplied. There is no lack of supply to be found anywhere in the universe, except, of course, where man has appeared. And it need not be that way with man, because you are a living part of a living universe. And it is prepared to supply you with everything that you need at every moment of your existence, and that will be for a long time. You're going to be around for a long time. And so we may as well get used to it and begin to work with the system, to begin to understand how things work in the universe, because we are of it. And we will not find our good on our terms. By that I mean the limited terms of man's consciousness of separation. But we will find our good when we begin to become one with that all goodness of God. Life is perfectly capable of sustaining itself eternally. And you are life. You are life discovering itself, beginning to acknowledge itself, beginning to believe in itself, beginning to experience itself. You and I are at the very beginning of our conscious experience as spiritual beings. We have been spiritual beings a long time, but now we're beginning to have the conscious experience of our eternal identity, unashamedly. We're just now becoming able to say, I am God's own life, expressing and experiencing itself. In these classes on prosperity, we're not talking about money. Well, that's one of the things that we're talking about, but that's not what we're talking about. Few things are more sought after or more misunderstood than what the average person calls prosperity. To someone working on an hourly rate, a raise of 50 cents an hour would perhaps be called prosperity, or a demonstration of prosperity. But to a Wall Street investor, a profit of $1 million is prosperity. This great difference in response is possible because the value in which prosperity is defined is usually false. Prosperity is not a matter of money. If you ask 100 people what their idea of prosperity is, you'll get 100 different answers. And what do these answers prove? Well, they prove that prosperity is a state of well-being. It implies a free and easy access to all that is good and desirable, and connotes a free, complete, and satisfying life. And that's what you're destined to have. A free, complete, fulfilling, rewarding, satisfying life. And if you're experiencing now in your life anything less than that, you are shortchanging yourself, and it is not God's will or the will of life. Riches, and for that matter all good, come to the same law that metal objects are attracted to a steel magnet. The power of attraction is not in the bar of steel, but in the invisible force with which that steel bar is charged. And so it is with you and me and with our supply. Our good comes not by hard work, not by physical effort, not by willpower, but by the Spirit of God embodied as a working force in our consciousness. We draw to us that which we have come to believe that we are and that we are entitled to. Nothing more and nothing less. Let me read to you a statement by Dr. Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut that spent some time in space and made some experiments, some mind experiments while he was in space. Dr. Mitchell says, "We believe the consciousness of man has an energy available to it that has control over matter, and that can move matter, that can change matter. In my opinion, the answers to the ills and misfortunes besetting the inhabitants of this planet can be solved with an understanding of consciousness, a utilization of this primordial energy that seems to be available to living systems. Whether we utilize it in healing, which is the greatest utilization of all, or whether we utilize it in some other aspects that are available to us, these things are important to our understanding. And it is important to our understanding that we have the capacity to do some things with our minds, and we are our minds, that perhaps we've not done before. In our first lesson, remember, we took our first step toward this new and exciting state or condition of prosperity that we are establishing in our lives. And in that first step, we became aware of spiritual substance. We became aware that there is a mind stuff from which all things are made that are made. And we also began to develop a deeper understanding of the principles of mind, how it works, how mind works. And we acknowledged that mind responds to the affirmative present tense. To the affirmative present tense, to I am. And so we let our minds begin to move upon the surface of this mind stuff, and we began to give it form and shape by asserting, I am prosperity. Not will be, because will be doesn't count in mind. Something that will be won't be. That which is accepted as true. Let the weak say, I am strong. Let the poor say and begin to believe, I am prosperity. And there begins to be a movement in that mind stuff. It begins to take a new form, a new shape, and a new experiences forthcoming from the substance of mind that is all around us. And our second mind action step toward our unlimited prosperity, we began to see and to believe that the allness of substance is available to all of us. All that the Father has is mine, is mine. And we began to see that mind substance actually desires to form itself around your thought and feeling. It was created to do that. That is its nature, to conform to what you hold as being true in your mind. What you think and visualize and feel and declare, decree, accept. It must conform to that. It must give form to that. It must give shape to that. It is universal subjective mind, subject to what you press out upon it. And our assignment these last 7 days has been to acknowledge both the power of substance to perform and to acknowledge our right to receive, to practice feeling worthy of our good. Last Saturday morning early, my telephone rang. Someone that was in class last Wednesday, in a very excited tone, said, I just made a discovery, Jack. And I said, what is it? And she said, universal substance is God. Did you know that? And I said, yes. We talked about that Wednesday night. And she said, I know. I heard it Wednesday, but I know it this morning. I know it. She said, it is so exciting. All around me, I now know, is this invisible substance that is conforming to what I believe to be true in my life. It was an experience, an exciting experience when we begin to see how the universe works and can begin to work with it in a new way. A whole new dimension of possibilities opens up to the mind that can begin to comprehend at that level. The third lesson tonight is a key step to our own personal demonstration of unlimited prosperity. If this universe is so abundantly supplied with all that it needs, all that it can possibly use, and if it has the power to create anything that it needs anywhere that it needs it, why should you and I not partake of that experience? Why have we had such a limited experience in our lives? And one of the reasons is that we have not yet taken this step, perhaps. It's a key to our own personal demonstration of unlimited prosperity. And we cannot partake of the unlimited abundance that flows freely and generously everywhere present until we take this step. And strangely enough, it's a step that very few human beings are willing to take with their minds. And so they stand helplessly by, just out of touch, just out of range of their good, of their supply. You see, you and I must establish our own personal, individual, conscious contact with substance. And we do this in the very same way that we establish our own personal, conscious contact with each other. Your point of contact with substance is recognition. We must begin to recognize it. Tonight, before this class began, I sat here recognizing and placing in my own mind a great value on your presence. In these moments, I've been aware individually of almost everyone that's in this room, and aware that you are real. You really are real. And aware that God knows that you are real. I have established a conscious contact with you, and you with me. You know that I am here. You have acknowledged me, and I have acknowledged you. And we must acknowledge that there is this substance of mind, and we do this by declaring and establishing our faith in it. I have faith that you are an individualized expression of God, and that you were created for a destiny and for a purpose that far exceeds your experience to this moment. I have implicit faith that this is true. I believe with all my heart that you are only at the beginning of your unfolding good, and that your demonstration can be dramatic and instantaneous, or slow and painful, depending upon your choice. I have faith in you. And we must begin to have faith. We must begin to recognize that the invisible is the source of all of our good. That the invisible world is the cause of all things made visible. And the step that we take in our minds that establishes our point of contact with substance is called a decision. We make a decision to demonstrate prosperity. An irreversible decision to experience unlimited prosperity. And it becomes a joyful decision that becomes a new beginning. A starting all over again. A beginning again. A conscious choice that becomes a new experience in life wherein the old is passed away. And everything that is new in our life pivots on this personal, conscious decision that must be immediately accepted at every level of our minds. You see, you and I must establish our new good by choosing our new good, by acknowledging it, by believing in it, by deciding upon it. And this can only be done by a conscious movement of our own minds. You see, we've waited too long for our good to happen to us. It cannot happen to us until we choose it. Nothing can happen to us unless we make it our choice. The word choose means to prefer and decide. It means to select, to want, to desire. And the root of the word choose comes from a Latin word meaning taste. One must want this new life so much that they can actually taste it with their minds. To taste a thing with your mind is to choose it. Have you not had that experience at some time in your life when there was something that was so important to you and so beautiful for you that you simply seemed to reach out with your mind and to encompass it, and you could taste it with your thought and with your feeling? Any time that you have chosen something in that manner, you experienced it. Look back and you will see that your most beautiful demonstrations came through this activity of choosing with one's mind at that level of feeling, of enveloping a thing, tasting it. And so let's begin to taste our prosperity. And taste it, and taste it, and taste it, and savor it. And you begin to find that it tastes pretty good. Good tastes good. Our problem is that we have tasted our lack for too long. How many times have we wrapped our thought around the idea that there was not enough? And we've had the bad taste in our mouths, in our minds, and in our lives of lack and of want and of separation and of need. Nothing can happen to us until we choose it, until we make an irreversible decision that prosperity is ours now. And this is the way that the mind works. And remember that all is mind. And so we make a movement in our minds now called a decision. The word decision means a making up of one's mind. It means firmness, having the power to determine. You have the power to determine how your life is going to be. But this can only come to pass as the result of a conscious decision or determination. Now, decision has another meaning that's very important. It means putting an end to controversy. Putting an end to controversy. Have you ever in your life been wondering whether you were going to do a thing or not? And back and forth the mind goes, and pro and con, and up and down, and undecided. You were thinking and evaluating, and you had lots of opinions, and your friends had opinions, and so did other people. And then when you made a decision, what happened? You put an end to controversy. It was no longer an opinion. It became a fact, a real thing. Do you see how important a decision is? A new decision, a conscious decision, and a decision at depth. And the root word of decision means a cutting down. The moment you make a decision for your prosperity, which means your total good coming to you from universal substance, it cuts down all of the old limiting thoughts or ideas. It cuts right through them. You make a decision, a firm, hard decision in your mind that you know is made for all time It is an irreversible decision. And I hope you're doing this now. I know some of you are, because I can feel the force of your decision reaching me here. What takes place in your mind becomes an experience and a vibration that is discernible to someone who is sensitive to it. A strong decision is worth 1,000 opinions. I repeat that. One strong decision is worth 1,000 opinions. And if you will look around you in life, most of the unsuccessful people that you know are filled with opinions. Opinions, opinions, opinions. And your telephone rings and they have lots of opinions about lots of things and people, but very little else going for them. Right? You show me someone that's going somewhere in life, and you will not hear very much about their opinions. You'll have to stop them and ask them and almost pry from them what they think about things. Right? But they have made a decision or a series of decisions that become active. Once you make a decision in mind, something begins to move that opinions do not seem to generate. Uncommitted opinions have no power except to cause the vacillation in our minds. So put an end to the controversy within you between rich and poor and yes and no, and make that decision now. The power of the mind that is made up is irresistible. And if you make up your mind that you and God are going to make this demonstration, you will find that you have made connection with a tremendous universal force that must execute the decision that you have just made. Now, most people have made up their minds, have made a decision about prosperity. Did you know that? They have made an irreversible to them decision, and that is that it doesn't exist for them. And that has become their experience. It does not exist for them. They cannot prove that it does. They have lots of opinions, but if they will become honest with themselves, they will see that somewhere along the way they decided that this was not possible for them. But you and I have cut through those old negative decisions that we've made. And we now decide and affirm and believe that spiritual substance is responding to our faith in it.
This concludes Side A. Now, please fast forward to the end and turn the cassette over for the continuation of Prosperity Principles That Work.
And let your minds know that you are now open to a flow of spiritual substance and energy, and that all of your needs will always be met. Can you feel that? That all of your needs will always be met? Do you believe that? Without exception? Totally and completely? Because there is a power greater than you that is pouring forth its mighty source of energy through you, through your mind? Someone here tonight that was in class last Wednesday, and on Thursday morning she was putting up storm windows and putting up the window, and after the window was in with the polishing cloth and cleaning the window and looking out in the lawn, she was affirming, "I am prosperity." And suddenly blowing across the lawn was a dollar bill. And she said, "This can't be," and went outside and there was the dollar bill. And she looked around and there were no more dollar bills, and she came inside and put up another storm window and cleaned it off and looked out, and there was another dollar bill blowing. It turned out that there were only $2 that blew through her yard that day, but it was an exciting experience, a marvelous demonstration. the fascinating things that begin to happen when we begin to use our minds. And here is this fantastically intelligent and responsive and loving substance that's all around us that does little things with us to let us know that it is there and smiles upon our path. And if you don't believe it, begin to trust it and to acknowledge it and work with it and watch it work with you and watch the joy that comes into your life when it makes itself known in tangible ways to your mind. You couldn't prove it to your barber or your hairdresser, but you know what's going on in your life. When we make a depth decision to change our lives along spiritual lines, it requires the conscious working with our minds, the lifting up of our beliefs and attitudes, the willingness to take the time and expend the energy to keep our thoughts up. And if we do, the result is that everything is changed or transfigured. Let me read to you a story that has to do with you and me. It's from the 9th chapter of Mark, the 1st through the 7th verses. It has to do with this mind substance and how to use it. Jesus went on to say to his disciples, "Some of you who are standing here right now will live to see the kingdom of God arrive in great power. And I will say to you that many of you sitting here right now will live to see the kingdom of God, the kingdom of your prosperity, arrive in your life with great power. With great power." 6 days later, Jesus took Peter, James, and John to the top of a mountain, and no one else was there. This is the Christ, the highest in us, taking with him the three mind powers, the three disciples who represent the mind powers of faith, wisdom, good judgment. Faith is Peter, as you know. James represents wisdom and good judgment, and John is love. And with these three faculties, you can perform a miracle any day of the week. If you will go up to the top of a mountain. Well, there aren't any mountains in this part of Michigan, you say. Well, inside you there is a mountain. If you go up to the highest place in your thought. Now, the story goes, no one else was there. Meaning, no negative thoughts were there. Climb that mountain until you have climbed above all of those negative thoughts that tell you it can't happen. That you're just a poor little simple human being with a lot of problems and nobody loves you anymore. Get above the sound of that voice. And suddenly his face began to shine with glory, and his clothing became dazzling white, far more glorious than any earthly process could ever make it. And then Elijah and Moses appeared and began talking with Jesus. Then Peter said, "Teacher, this is wonderful. We will make 3 shelters here for each of you." And he said this just to be talking, for he didn't know what else to say, and they were all terribly frightened. Luke says, Peter and the others had been very drowsy and had fallen asleep. Now they woke up. What this means is that our faculties of faith and of wisdom and of love, optimism, joy, have been asleep. Think for a moment. Have your faculties of the mind fallen asleep recently? Have your expectancy of your good, has it fallen asleep? You see, faith, the faculty of faith in you, is that faculty of the mind that has the ability to say yes to your good. The Simon Peter faculty in us must awaken and say yes to our good. It must acknowledge this good and behold it. And how does it behold it? It beholds it dazzling white, far more glorious than any earthly process could ever make it. There's a part of our minds that must wake up and begin to believe that there is a spiritual process that is far greater than any earthly process could ever make our lives. And when it wakes up and sees that, it does another thing. And it's a very important part of our lesson tonight. It goes a step farther than that. What it does at that point is that it begins to place a value on what it sees. You see, the first action of the mind power of faith is to place a value on. Simon means hearing. But it means more than hearing. Simon means hearkening to and understanding what you hear. And hearken means to attend to what is said. It means to take action on what you have heard. Now, in your life and mine, we've heard lots of things about our good that we didn't believe. We just heard it. It kind of whistled right by our ear, and we didn't get up and do anything about it. We didn't hearken to it, did we? Now, I hope that you are hearkening. How long since you've heard that word, hearken? Say to yourself, I'm going to hearken to what Jack says to me right now. I'm going to hearken to this idea that my good is perfect now. And I'm going to take action on what I have just heard. Now, have you heard the truth about you and your prosperity? Have you? Are you willing to take action? The first action of your mind is to place a value on. And I will repeat. And notice that Peter said, Teacher, this is wonderful. We will make here 3 shelters, 3 tabernacles. Now, one translation of that word from one of the ancient texts is this, that instead of a tabernacle or a tent, what was meant was we will make 3 stone mounds here. We will pile up 3 stones to mark this spot. Remember that this was a nomadic people, and they were out in the wilderness frequently, and when an unusual event occurred, they marked it with the only material they had at hand, which would not blow away, and that was stones. They would gather stones and make a tabernacle, a place or a point of recognition. That was a special or sacred event or experience to them, and they could return to it. They could give instructions on how to go back to the place that that event occurred. They didn't have street signs or road signs as we now do, as you know. Now, the mind must do the same thing. Your mind must make a tabernacle or pile up some stones right now. It must place a value on this decision that you have just made. And what value do you place on your new unfolding concept of prosperity? Do you give it a value, a small value, a larger value, a great value? Do you place it first? Are you willing to go to any lengths in these next 7 days and then in the days that follow to remind yourself of this new and marvelous experience that you're having? Will you place it above your old limited thoughts and give it the seat of honor on your right hand? Or will you think, well, I've tried all this before and it doesn't work? Or if God wanted me to have prosperity, I would have been born with everything I needed. You weren't born with everything that you needed because God wants you to learn how to use your mind so that you can produce everything that you need, so that you can become a citizen of the universe, functioning with that perfection that was built into you from the very beginning. And what value will you place on this prosperity class, these lessons? The coming again and again into the focus of the consciousness, the power of the vibration that we're sharing here together. Is your value a limited one, and so that you might say, I'll come if it doesn't rain or snow, or doesn't get too cold, or if the price of gasoline doesn't go up, I can't afford to come if gasoline gets to be any more expensive? Wouldn't that be a limiting thought for a prosperity-conscious person like you? There are some things that we cannot afford to miss. There are some things that I must put first so that I can experience the freedom that is mine. And one definition for prosperity is freedom. freedom to be and to do and to experience and to have everything that your Christ nature desires that you should have. What monetary value have you placed on these lessons? Think about it for a moment. Have you assigned a value? Then I suggest to you that you increase that value. The value that you assign to your life is what life will give to you. The value that you establish now will be the value that is recorded in the spiritual substance and will be returned to you. So you determine the value and the quality of the prosperity that you are going to experience. And so I ask you, is the value that you see dazzling white, far more glorious than any earthly process could ever make it? Is it? And if so, are you willing to act accordingly for the next 7 days and return again and again to the special event that has taken place in your mind, to the special feeling that you now have, and give it life and substance and livability? Are you willing to take this feeling of expectancy and of excitement and carry it out into your world and nurture it when moment by moment the events that are there try to bring you down to the old level? Do you give it a value? Will you protect it? Believe in your thought and think this thought. Feel it. And if you do, you will experience at the level that you have assigned. When you and I have given ourselves entirely to Spirit, lots of times things happen to us and we don't know exactly why they're happening, but they're exciting while they happen. You see, our faith, as it begins to go into action, causes events to occur. And with the passage of time, as we grow, we understand more of how and why certain things are happening to us. But know that starting right now, that at whatever level that you happen to be in your understanding of truth, that you're going to have some exciting experiences. You really are. I've had numerous examples this week of exciting things that have been occurring to you since you declared that you are prosperity. One example is a couple that they're here tonight. Last Sunday, it was a beautiful Sunday, and they had always wanted to have a sailboat. And they were thinking about prosperity, and if you're thinking about prosperity in sailboats, you go over to the lake. And they did, and walked out on the dock and were watching the boats sailing and thinking about prosperity and having a sailboat. And shortly, a beautiful 28-foot sail hove into view and came up to the dock, and it was such a beautiful day, and our friend was pointing out toward the lake and saying, "It's too beautiful for you to come in. If I had a sailboat like that, I would go back out to the middle of the lake. I wouldn't come into the land. I wouldn't be in here." And the skipper of the boat looked over, and I'm sure he wondered what this strange person was saying to him, waving from the dock. And he came over, and the result was that he did go back out to the middle of the lake and took them with him. And so for all of Sunday afternoon, they had a 28-foot sailboat. An exciting demonstration, you bet. Do not doubt the power that works out things in the invisible part of you. Your good is unfolded. And as you get a strong, intuitive feeling that something is happening to you, follow the lead of that. If you feel like that you should go over toward the lake and watch the sails come in, go do it. Do something different. Something that is in keeping with the desires that are even now flowing through your own mind and heart. Break out of the patterns that you have found yourself in. Let this decision that you have made begin to move itself into activity, and don't resist that activity. Don't resist the patterns that are even now seeking to break up old patterns in relationships and move and flow with the things that are seeking to experience themselves. in exciting, new, and marvelous ways. Sometimes we wonder how Jesus could do the marvelous things that he did, like multiply the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes to meet the hunger of 5,000 persons. Which would you rather be, one of the 5,000 or the person that could do it? Which is it? Well, it was done through an understanding of the law, and the 5 loaves represent the 5 sense application of divine substance. When you and I begin to use our senses and then our higher powers to believe in this invisible principle, we'll make our demonstration. And we'll do it in a way that will not be miraculous, but will be as the result of something awakening within us. Our good is seeking to awaken and to become our experience. But if we go out into our lives and talk of hard times and the famine, of lack, then we're talking of something that has no place in the mind of God. We're not acknowledging God in all of our ways, but acknowledging error and affirming that the world, that our lives have its source in outer things, and they do not. And we're placing a value on negative things and thereby choosing the opposite of our good. Do you know how much value you place on a thing when you fear it? Think of the power that is there. You have given a great negative value to something if you are afraid that it will happen to you. If you see yourself subject to that negative experience or relationship or person. And by the very law of placing a value, that which we choose by placing a value upon becomes our experience. And so we must turn our minds around and get into this one consciousness that in God's mind, there's only our good seeking to express itself in our lives right now. And a faithfulness and earnestness in the application of this idea will absolutely guarantee you of the success of the experience of this idea. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom can be no variation, neither shadow that is cast by turning. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct thy paths. All the great masters have taught that a very important part of making our demonstration is to enter into the silence. There is power in the silence of our being. And through prayer and meditation, to become aware of the power of the universal substance that is there. And that if we do this, we will multiply and increase the power of that substance in our lives. If in this next week, if you'll become very still from time to time and realize that your resource is Spirit, your resource is God, and that all that God has is yours. That's making contact with that substance, with your faith, believing in it, and dwelling upon it, and you'll feel it begin to expand, begin to well up inside of you. And some of you have no doubt have had that experience, and you know that when it has happened inside of you, that it must happen outside of you. It must become your experience. If you say in the silence of your being, I have faith in the substance of God working in and through me to increase and bring abundance into my world, it will do it. I have faith in the substance of God working in and through me to increase and bring abundance into my world. I have faith in God. And let us all know that just now, right here where we are in the very presence of creative mind, the mind that made the universe and everything in it. This mind is here and at work right now as much as it ever was or ever will be. And as we fully realize this at this moment, we increase the activity of mind in us immeasurably. I have faith in the substance of God working in and through me to increase and bring abundance into my world. And so it is. Thank you, Father.
This concludes the lesson on tape number 3. Now proceed to tape number 4 for the continuation of Prosperity Principles That Work.